What's going on, guys? James Blunt here with MMOHuts.com. This time taking a first look at a brand new team-based shooter developed by Hi-Rez Studios called Paladins, Champions of the Realm. Now, this game was announced not too long ago, towards the end of summer during the Smite charity event, and has recently transitioned into a relatively easy-to-get-into closed beta. And I've got to start out by saying it is a blast. After playing it a bit, it definitely reminds me of how I felt the first time I ever experienced Smite, thinking that this game is going to rock, eventually. It's sort of a free-to-play answer to Overwatch now that Blizzard confirmed that to be buy-to-play, and it features a roster of characters to choose from, all with unique abilities and roles, but there are also a couple of unique elements beyond that, like the collectible card system that I'll for sure talk about, that sets itself aside from other games like it, or some of the games that are coming out anyway. So seeing that the closed beta is moving along and Hi-Rez is encouraging players to get in and try it out, I'll hop in and show you guys exactly what to expect. Okay, so first off, breaking down the fundamentals, we have a 5 versus 5 setup on a fairly large map, and the game mode, the only one currently available, is a combination of capture point and siege. Essentially, each team is trying to capture the point that is active to summon a siege weapon, very similar to siege in Smite, and send that crashing through the opposing team's base to destroy their vault. That's pretty much the goal in the game. There are 3 locations on the map where a point can spawn randomly after the countdown ends, letting you know that a point will be spawning soon, and when this happens, both teams rush over to that point and try to claim it to again summon a siege weapon that your team can escort to the enemy base, or vice versa, depending on how it goes. There are currently 2 different maps laid out in a very similar setup, each with 3 spawn locations that offer some sort of variant of coverage or lack thereof in some cases. So one point may be walled up and you have access to it by first either getting to a higher location or breaking through a door that closes behind you if you're not the first team to get there, as an example. Another set spawn point location is in a completely open area like this, where you have to change up your strategy a little bit and work with your team differently, watching your back, using the various characters' abilities accordingly to hold the point. And then there's a set point where it's kind of in between being covered or open, like this here. And like I was saying, both maps are set up the same way, though that's not to say that at some point that may change, especially with different game modes introduced later on. So again, only 1 capture point spawns at a time, and as you stand on it, you begin to capture it slowly, and yes, the more team members you have on one point, the faster you capture it, but it is set up so that way you maintain your point control even if you get pushed off by the other team. So the capturing percentage of your team remains until one team or the other captures the point. Thus, the first team to capture long enough to reach 100% essentially gets the point. Now, if you've got members of the opposing team on the capturing point while you're trying to capture it, the progression actually stops. So this is often the strategy used by the other team's characters with massive deployable shields. The idea here being a way to buy that team time to get grouped together to retake the point, keeping the opposing team from being able to capture the point in the meantime. It's both effective and annoying. Once a team has captured a point, you'll notice that the siege engine is pretty tanky, and once it's being escorted, your job is to either protect it or destroy it before it gets to your gates. Each base has 2 gates equipped with defense towers before getting into the vault, which lies unprotected at that point by nothing but you and your team. Once you've reached this point, you're definitely going to want to focus your firepower on the vault itself, because the siege engine does significantly less damage to the vault than it does to each one of the gates. And each gate has health that is sort of segmented into 3 sections, so if you or the enemy destroys the attacking siege engine, the health of the gate snaps to one of those particular segments, and if the gate happens to get destroyed, so does the siege engine, so it doesn't get a chance to proceed further and start on another gate or even a vault. So the layout of the game is pretty straightforward. It's simple yet really fast-paced and absolutely fun. I mean, where the complexity and variety lies is within the characters and their abilities and the adjustments to their abilities, which is done with cards, and I'll get into that in a second. The other system that you've probably already noticed is the mount system. Being able to summon your mount can get you back into the fight considerably faster than just walking, especially if you're trying to get to a capture point first or catch up to defend or attack a siege engine. Just don't get hit while you're mounted, or of course you'll get knocked off. Luckily, there's no further movement penalty other than the normal walking speed at that point, and mounting up is also a great way to regenerate health faster, all while getting out of harm's way. Looking at the character variety, there are 9 characters to choose from currently. You can definitely expect this list to grow, probably as big as Smite's is currently, if not bigger, of course, later on. Eevee here is the latest character introduced, so you see a lot of players playing her to try her out. But all of these characters are available to you from the start for free, nothing you have to unlock. Now, there isn't a way to see the character stat breakdown as of yet, so for now all you can do is get a brief description of their skills to sort of get an idea of what role they play as, and of course you can try them out against bots in practice in order to learn the game mechanics and playstyle, kind of like you used to back in the day in Smite. Long live the Manticore. Anyway, with Eevee here, she's got abilities that help her sneak around, deceive opponents, and get out of combat quickly with Blink and Soar. So with that, you can probably guess that she's not a tank in terms of health, and she has a little bit more DPS right out of the box. More than likely. By the way, each character has a basic attack that is ranged. Not really sure if they plan on adding in melee style characters yet, but my guess is that it's a good possibility. I don't see why not. Other characters like Fernando here does actually play more of a tank type role with the huge shield like I mentioned earlier. Very useful for protecting your siege engine when it's tearing through your enemy's gates. Same thing goes with Buck, except, you know, you've got to be a little bit more careful so that way you don't block your teammates out of the gates to start attacking. You've even got healing character hybrids like Grok, capable of dealing massive damage and healing his team all at the same time. I've got to say, he's probably my favorite character so far, and if not him, then Cassie. Cassie reminds me of playing as Artemis in the very early days of Smite. Great universal character in this game. But before we get any further here, let's go ahead and break down the card system. This system offers both passives that alter your character's abilities, as well as a progression system during the match. So starting at the beginning of the match, and once every time you level up, you are presented with 3 random cards, just like this. Now, there are 3 different types of cards in the game currently. You've got armor cards, weapon cards, and ability cards. And each one of these affects those 3 aspects of your character accordingly.
Ooh, I look good.
Starting at the top of the cards, we have the rarity. They can be green, blue, purple, or gold, which determines how rare the card is. Then we have the active type here, which indicates which of your character abilities gets modified. Sometimes it won't have this if the card is not affecting a ability and more just your character in general. The active, which is this right here, that indicates how the card modifies your character or character ability. And finally, at the bottom row here, we have the stat increase to your character granted while the card is active. We've got a damage increase on the left here that indicates the increases to your damage across the board, not just for this particular ability. The middle here is the cooldown for the card. This only applies when the card resets if you were to die. And then we have the health, which increases your character's overall maximum health. So depending on what stats you need, you might actually pick the cards based on damage, health, and cooldown rather than what the active actually does for you. So the leveling progression in the game works like this. See, the level cap during the match is 10, and after level 5, you've selected all of your cards. And it looks like this here. But from there, leveling to 6, you get to go back and make choices to swap out your first card again with another one of your initial selections. As an example, this is very crucial with Grok in that a lot of the times one of the first cards you get with him in the default deck grants you an increase in XP by 40% and recharges your other cards 80% faster if you die. Plus, it gives you 150 health and a 5% damage increase. Now, after you get to level 6, you might want to swap this card out because you don't exactly need the XP gain any faster anymore because you already have the cards you want for the most part. This is kind of like swapping early game items for late game items in your standard MOBA match. So yeah, you continue to reselect cards all the way through level 10. So like I said, your cards go on cooldown if you die, so that gives players a really good incentive to stay alive as well as kill as many other players as they can to essentially deny them of their powerful passive attributes on their abilities through their cards. Generally, the legendary cards are the most powerful in some form or fashion and have the longest cooldowns. The nice part is as you level, the rarity increases on the cards that you choose from. So at level 1 and 2, you're choosing from common green cards. Level 3 gives you access to uncommon blue cards. Level 4 is rare, and of course level 5 is the only level that you can choose another rare or legendary gold cards if you even have them. So once you've got all your cards active past level 5, you can then become really powerful. In this case with Grok, I've got my totem that not only heals allies, but also allows them to take 50% less damage and makes them immune to crowd control and negative status effects. It also gives them 30% attack speed, plus I can target my own totem with my very powerful chain lightning ability, and that ability has a 40% increase in range. So when I'm attacking, I pop down my totem, hit my E ability to chain lightning everyone, damaging them all at the same time. It's great when either my team or the enemy team is trying to capture a point. I'm able to clear them out really quick. But of course, if I die, all that is reset. So, you know, I do my best not to.
Good game.
As you play matches and level up your overall account, you unlock loot chests that give you 5 random cards with the Radiant chest and 1 random card with the Champions chest. Just like opening a pack of cards in Hearthstone, if you're familiar with that, I'm pretty sure you're guaranteed at least 1 rare. Some of the cards you get, of course, can be repeats, and it does indicate if it's new, as well as which character it's used for. You can pick up more chests just by playing the game or buying them with in-game currency, which I have enough for another chest already, or cash shop currency, of course. In fact, that's actually the only thing you can spend real cash on in the game at the moment. That and, of course, the Founders Pack that gets you 20 Radiant chests, quite a bit. Each one has 5 cards. And the Infernal Warhorse mount, which looks pretty sweet, actually. I can imagine the game having skins for each of the characters once there's, more of them. Anyway, once you get started collecting cards, you can then go to the vault and browse through them. They're organized by the character, and it indicates how many you have based on an entire set. And one nice feature is that you can look at the cards that you don't have just yet to get an idea of what to look forward to. It's pretty cool. As you can tell, one of the things they're still working on in the game is the artwork for the cards. They'll probably end up looking really nice in the long run, but for now we can see some of the concept artwork from Smite a lot of times as a placeholder. So what to do with duplicate cards? Well, they don't have the build your own deck feature available just yet that would allow you to group together specific cards from your collection once you have enough variety to make an awesome deck. But they do have card crafting, which is extremely straightforward in this game. You've got several options here for crafting new cards, depending on the outcome you want. Basically, if you want to be guaranteed a unique card, you go with the bottom row here, which will cost you 3 duplicate cards of the same type to get a new card that you don't already have. But if you choose from the top row here, you can use 5 lower rarity cards to get a brand new card of higher rarity that you might already have as sort of a trade-off for the whole thing. And the reason these are locked over here is because I don't exactly have the cards necessary to craft them. As you can see, it shows how many duplicates of each rarity I have on the left, almost like an exchange in currency in this case. I've got to say though, I'm really glad that this is as straightforward as it is. I'm kind of hoping that this system stays exactly the way it is. So yeah guys, overall the game is just fun to the core, and that's pretty much all it is at the moment, a core game. The gameplay is really addicting even though there's only 1 game mode and 2 maps in the game so far. It's a constant team fight back and forth, offense and defense, and every match that I've played so far has been really close, generally lasting about 14 to 20 minutes. And that being said, if the game is already as fun as it is with essentially just being a skeleton in place, once they get more game modes, more characters, and some polish like we've seen happen to Smite over the past couple of years, it's definitely going to end up being one of my favorite free-to-play games. I'm just calling it now. So like I said before, the game is in closed beta. If you happen to get in and you progress to level 4, which takes hardly any time at all, you unlock beta keys in order to give to your friends. So that's pretty cool. Otherwise, if you really like what you see and you want to get in quick, the Founders Pack is definitely the way to go. You get a lot of cards that way and a really cool mount. Thanks for watching, guys. Pick up more information about Paladins from the game profile at MMOHuts.com. And until next time, guys, that's going to be it for me. I'm James Blonde. See you out there, gamers.